Hi, this is Kitty Swink, and you're listening to the FSF podcast.
The show where Professor X read our minds and wished he was still back on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 129. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins Quark to make a profit from Tribbles, that she did not leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her Latinum League book of acquisitions.
All right, kids, our guest today is an actress who has portrayed multiple characters in the Star Trek world on Deep Space Nine, but you've probably also seen her guest starring in other shows and other television shows that you love, such as Babylon 5, Law and Order, Crossing Jordan, NYPD Blue. I would keep going, but I would lose my voice. And there's a whole bunch more attached there. And there's also some voiceover work as well, where she did some work for some Star Trek video games and some other things as well. There's a whole list of things on IMDb. Really go check it out. It's a really very cool list. I kept going, ooh, she was in that. Ooh, she was in that. But yeah, here we are. And we are so happy and proud to welcome Kitty Swink to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Kitty.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Kitty, not too long ago, you were able to travel to Germany for a Star Trek convention, which from all the pictures and the things that I've seen looked like it was an amazing time for everyone who attended that con. Now, some actors find that they really enjoy conventions and some really struggle whether they do it because, well, they got signed up for it. And some have said, well, we feel like, it's an obligation that we have to do it. And some absolutely love to do it. They can't wait to go to the next one to meet the fans and interact with them. So what is it about conventions that you like or don't like, and which has been your favorite one to attend thus far?
Wow, that's hard. I like meeting the fans. I love talking to people. I find Star Trek fans to be, they like science. They like to learn. They like the other. They like to know people that aren't the same as them, which I think is great because that's how I am. I always want to open my horizons. They're generous of spirit, and also if the Star Trek fans together decide there's something that they want to support, some charity, or those of us on the other side of the world, for instance, Armin and Jonathan Frakes and I work with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, and the Star Trek fans have been incredibly generous with helping to support research into pancreatic cancer. So we've changed the numbers on that, and Star Trek fans have been so helpful. I can't thank them enough. So those are things I love. The other thing I love about Star Trek conventions is I get to hang around with people that I don't see very often. Like Marina Sirtis is a dear friend, but she lives in London now, so I don't get to see her very often.
Sure.
And we were in Dortmund together having a really, really good time. And it just was so much fun. Anthony and Montgomery and I got to spend a lot of time together. Connor Trenier, who was in a web series that I produced, and I laughed until we were having, it's a terrible thing to say, snot run out of our nose. There you go. And so it was just great. It was really good. And I got to meet some of the people from the new show, who I had never met before. So that was fun. The things I don't like about it is how exhausting it gets to sit underneath fluorescent lights for that many hours.
Yeah.
So tiring, and the sort of cacophony of noise. My favorite conventions. Boy, that's hard. I loved the Star Trek cruise a few years ago that Armin and I did to the Caribbean. Loved it. We're going to do the one in February. That's exciting. I always like going to Las Vegas because it's such a weird place, Las Vegas, and we can drive there. And there's an outlet mall on the way where I always buy a purse, so that's fun.
Outlet malls make everything better.
Yeah, outlet malls, love them. And the only really bad convention we went to was one in a place that I shall remain nameless, where on the airplane flight there, I came down with chicken pox. So in our hotel room in the morning, I was covered with pox. I just started feeling bad on the plane. I woke up with chicken pox, and then the organizers, so I couldn't do the convention, but Armin did the convention, and they stiffed him. He didn't get paid. So between the chicken pox, being stuck in a hotel room, and getting stiffed, that was a bummer. That was really not fun. Yeah. And you're not supposed to have chicken pox in your 40s, which is so it was a while ago, but yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
The idea of chickenpox in your 40s, chickenpox as an adult in general just sounds horrendous to me.
It was bad. And there were pox in places that you don't want to know about, really.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll take your word for it on
My
that one.
nose, no, bad.
My older brother got chickenpox when he would have been about 18 months old, I think is what my mom said, because he and the next one in line, so my two brothers got chickenpox at the same time. And Charlie had him on the palms of his hands, inside of his mouth, in his nose, on the underside of his eyelids. Yeah, like, so when I came around 12 years later and the chickenpox vaccine was a thing, my mom's like, we're not doing this again. You're getting that vaccine now because I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, I had bad pox as a baby as well. My mom said they were in places they shouldn't have been. All the places that you don't want them to go.
Yeah, and let me just say, going to the bathroom was not fun.
No, it wouldn't be. So, Kitty, you've already touched a little bit on your work with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, but you are an 18-year pancreatic cancer survivor, which, just as a note to our listeners, a quick Google search showed that the general 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer in the United States is 11% right now. And when you received your diagnosis, it was closer to the 3 to 4% range.
Yes.
So for you to be an 18-year survivor is incredibly amazing. Like, just that is fantastic. And talk about literally beating the odds. That's amazing. Like, I'm not gonna cry because that's not who I want to be today.
You can cry if you want to.
You've used this experience as a cancer survivor to help others diagnosed with pancreatic cancer through PanCan.
Yes.
And so can you tell us what PanCan does, how you got involved, and how our listeners can get involved to help out too?
Oh, that's a long answer. So Charlotte Ray, you guys are too young, but she was the den mother on The Facts of Life, was a dear friend of ours. And she went to the Midwest to take a test because she had a lot of people in her family. She went with PanCan to take a test because she had lost so many family members to pancreatic cancer. And quite unbeknownst to them, when she went to take the test, she tested positive. They had no idea she had pancreatic cancer. And she came back here, and our friend Lawrence Pressman, who a lot of Star Trek fans will know because of that, but he was also on Doogie Howser, and he's done a million things, called me and said she needs a rabbi. So they asked me to, I'm like, my husband, a rabbi, yes. Me, not a Jewish girl, but there you go. I was Char's rabbi, and I'm such a shiksa. So there we go. And I started, as Charlotte got better, I started to go to Pancreatic Cancer Action Network events with her, often in Orange County, California. I would drive her down, and Charlotte was about 4'11", and I've shrunk, but I was 5'10". So we would go and we would stand behind the podium, and I would take an apple box in the back of my car, and she'd stand up on the apple box, and I would still be like feet taller than and we would talk to people, and she would make a speech, and sometimes I would make a speech with her. And then at her funeral, her son asked me to speak, which I did. She was a really important person in my life, and she gave so many people hope. And not just about that, she was sober alcoholic, and she helped so many people in Hollywood become sober alcoholics. And so I thought, I have to carry on this tradition of helping people. And it's sort of in how I was raised, that if you're lucky enough to be lucky, then you have to help other people. So I started doing that kind of stuff. And then when another person involved with Star Trek died a few years ago, I made a donation to PanCan, and I tweeted something about it, asking other people to do it. And the woman who had started PanCan, because her mother had died of pancreatic cancer, I don't know how she found out how to get a hold of me, but she found out how to get a hold of me, and she asked me to make a meeting time with her. And so I did, and we met, and I said, Jonathan Frakes lost his brother to pancreatic cancer, and Armin is very involved because I'm one of the lucky ones. I was told I wasn't going to survive. And so the three of us had a meeting with them online, and we've been involved ever since. And they do extraordinary things. They have patient services where they really help you find the right doctors, a center of excellence. They can talk to you about diet, and they can give you counseling. It's very disturbing. It's also very difficult for your family. So they also help families, the whole family. It's a family project. And they have paid for enormous amounts of research. PanCan reached out and got the rules changed so that if you are in a trial for a new drug and the drug isn't working, they allow you to get out of that trial now and into a trial that maybe will help you work. And that's the doing of PanCan, which is saving lives. It's extraordinary.
That's cool.
And I think
Amazing.
a lot of why it's gone from 3% to 11%, and our goal is 20% within the next 10 years. So a lot of why that is true is because of the work that PanCan has done. And early detection is an enormous thing. And the other thing that PanCan has really taken a hand in is if you're a Black person or a brown person, particularly a Black person in this country, you're much more likely to die of the same disease because you don't get diagnosed in the same way.
Right.
So we're working hard on early detection for everybody, but also for people of color. And I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of everything PanCan does. So that's the quick answer. Yeah.
That is so amazing. And it is, I mean, just the work that you guys have done, getting it from 3 to 4% to 11% is fantastic. I mean, it's still heartbreaking that that number seems so low still,
Right.
but it's so much higher than it was.
Well, and part of it is early detection. If you know in your family that there's pancreatic cancer, you should go get tested. There's ways to find it early. I don't know why I got so lucky. And I think I'm lucky because I had really good doctors and doctors who listened to me. And when I said I don't feel well, they listened to me. I had had breast cancer in my 30s. And so I was lucky. I was much fitter and younger than most people who get this disease because I'm not good at sitting still. So I work out all the time, or I run, or I walk, or I do, so that made a big difference. I just lucky that way. And I did everything that medical science told me to do. I meditated. I did sort of every kind of herbal gerbil thing I could. I did it all. And I had Armin and my friends who were unbelievably helpful. The first time they told me I could take a shower, I couldn't really stand up and do it myself. And so my friend Dinah in the hospital room got me into the shower, took off her clothes and washed my hair for me. I can't tell you how amazing that was. I would love her anyway. Her children are my godchildren, but I will love her forever for that. That's an extraordinary thing to do for somebody.
That is so amazing. And I love the first thing that you say, that you had Armin. It's like, Armin.
Well, he's kind of the best. He's a keeper. I think I should keep him.
I think
There
you
you go.
should. I think after, as long as you've had him, you probably should keep him. I think the return policy's probably expired.
You think it's lapsed? 41 years of marriage, I can't throw him back.
Yeah.
So, and maybe I missed this in your story, but what's a good way for our listeners if they want to get involved? How can they help out?
Go to pancan.org, capital P, small a-n, capital CAN.org, and check it out. And you can make a donation, you can volunteer, you can encourage other people who have pancreatic cancer in their family backgrounds to get it. People who have had lots of kinds of cancers who if they get a genetic testing, there's certain genetic, like the BRCA mutation, which also can be a marker for breast cancer, can be a marker for pancreatic cancer. There's lots of ways to get involved. Or find me on Twitter at Kitty Swink, and I'll send you in the right direction.
Awesome. We're definitely going to link those. Definitely.
And I just want to tell a story. I have a friend who I met through Charlotte, who's a 19-year survivor. Her name's Roberta Luna, and she's never been operable. And I don't know anybody else who's not operable, because that's usually a big marker whether you have a chance to survive or not. And she's gone from one drug to another, and she is optimistic and happy and works her butt off for pancreatic cancer research. And she's my hero. So everybody should have a hero. I recommend it. Mhm.
That is absolutely amazing.
PanCan is definitely something that is really close to your heart.
Mhm.
And many of us also have like a little special little something that is close that we hold to our hearts.
Yes.
But what is a project or a film that you have worked on that is a little less known, that is close to your heart, but you wish had some more love?
There's a bunch. There's a bunch of them. There's a goofy little movie that I just adore called, it's called Diani and Divine Meet the Apocalypse. And Armin's in it, and Barry Bostwick's in it, and I'm in it, and Janet Varney. If you guys are fans of a lot of games, she's amazing. And these two young people, well, I guess they're not really young. I met them when they were really young people, but they're kind of middle people now, who are wonderful writers, actors, and directors. Gabe Diani and Etta Devine wrote, directed it, produced it. It was summer camp for actors. We had the most wonderful time. And I just think it's so smart and funny. It's two sort of down on their luck comics who get caught up in the apocalypse. And there's a group of extremely wealthy people who are living on this ranch, protecting themselves, and they hunt meat people. So I'm one of the people who, Armin and I and Barry Bostwick and Harry Groner, who you guys probably know, are people who try and hunt and eat them. I think I can reveal that we don't succeed in that, but
I have pulled it up on IMDb and I'm just looking at screenshots now and I'm like, okay, so this is adding to my watch list.
Oh, it's so silly and funny. And I think these two people should be writing and directing all the time. I think they are writing, they're writing on a show right now, but they're just incredible. I just love the two of them. And we had so much fun doing it. It was just stupid fun. It really was stupid fun. And the guy who wrote the music for the film was making us all breakfast in the morning when we're up on location. It was in the morning, there's somebody in the kitchen making, it was fantastic.
I love that.
No actors went missing, right?
No, let me think. John Apicella came back though. Yeah, it was really fun. And then there's a movie that I really want to make that Marina and Terry and myself and Nana and a bunch of other wonderful people were going to make before the pandemic, and then the pandemic came and it went into turnaround. And Kristen Baker, who's directing and producing it, is hoping to find the money for that. So I hope that happens. About Storyville, which was a real place in New Orleans. I've spent a lot of time in New Orleans and shooting things in my life. I've been lucky enough to work down there a lot. And it's really interesting. And it's a feminist look at what happened. So it's really interesting. I like it a lot. I hope that gets made. That's very dear to my heart. Yeah.
These pictures from Diani and Divine.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Oh my gosh, but it looks so great. And there's this picture of the lineup, and it's Barry and Armin and Harry and Chad. And Armin only comes up to their shoulders.
And then if you flipped the image, I'd be on the other side, walking up and down the people trying to pick one who we're going to hunt that day. So the flip side of that image is me going, okay, I think we should, and I'm like looking at their teeth and
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds okay. Something to check out for sure.
It's not. I probably should have said Patty Hearst with Natasha Richardson and Bing Rames and blah blah blah. But Johnny and Divine just thrills me. Just tickles me to death. Yeah.
No, that's a great answer. Sounds like something. Honestly, sounds like something I would watch.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds fun.
Good. Okay.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
All right, so Kitty, in your career, you've played many roles in many different shows, some serious, some not so serious, of course. And I know that it's an actor's job to portray different personality types and such, and depending on the character and what's going on in the scene and all this. But you seem to do this with ease and in a way that I don't think that many actors and actresses do. But because of that, it makes me wonder, what would you offer in the way of advice to people who are working on becoming actors or thinking of becoming an actor in the ways that you prepare for these different role types?
Well, that's really interesting. I heard, God rest her soul, Angela Lansbury died this week, who was one of my heroes. And it was an interview that they played a clip from a long time ago. And she said, I was a character actress, which is a dirty word in Hollywood. But I think being a character actor is kind of great because you get to have this wild ride of playing all these different parts. And if you're lucky, they'll go with that. But most people, unless you're Meryl Streep, they only want you to play one thing. And because I guess I've never been famous, I've just been a good working Joe actor. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. I think find yourself in every character, work really hard, open your heart, do your homework. I remember one time when we first moved from New York to LA, there was a playwrights festival and they were doing readings of all these new plays, and I got cast in two of them, and they were back to back they were like 20-minute plays. And I walked off stage, changed my clothes, and walked back in a different character. And I had left my New York agent to come to Hollywood, and I didn't have an agent out here yet. And I had an agent come up to me after the end of the evening and say, you made a mistake. And I said, excuse me. He said, well, I didn't recognize you when you came back for the second play. That's a mistake. They should know who you are. And I was like, you're not impressed with the fact that
you didn't know who I was?
That's a really strange thing to say. But last night we went to hear a friend of ours sing at Feinstein's. And afterwards we ran into a friend of a woman I know from years and years and years of doing commercial auditions when we were young. And we talked about how maybe we didn't have the career that we thought we would have, but we had such a happy life because we've gotten to do all these really interesting different things. So I think embrace what life gives you, live every day. And that's true whether you're an actor or a bus driver. And I think that makes you better at whatever it is you do. Yeah.
Well, that's good advice. We've had opportunity to interview a couple other of character actors. We interviewed Larry Cedar. We've interviewed Larry Hankin. And, the reason I asked you that question, because, being a character actor, you've been in all these different shows and you've had opportunity to take on all these different things. Now, one of the things that Larry Cedar brought up, and I want to see, what your thoughts on this are as well, because he said that he took a lot of pride and joy in being a character actor in the simple fact that he got to try all these different things and all these different modes and methods of acting that most actors don't get a chance to do because they're an action star or they're a sci-fi star or they're a reality star or whatever it may be. But they have a very limited scope of their skills. But he's getting to try out everything because he's played, everything from a prince to a pauper and everything in between. And I don't know if you felt the same way or similar to that.
I do. In fact, Larry and I did a little known, and it probably shall remain nameless, horror film together where I played a 110-year-old serial killer and he was my dead husband. So there you go. I mean, that we're talking out on the limb. At the same time, I was doing a play where I was the wealthy trophy wife of a philanderer. And at the same time, I'm doing those two things at the same time. So how much fun was that? I got to say, not being able to get the fake blood out from underneath my toenails was a little disgusting. But other and the stuff that they put on your skin to make you all wrinkly is really ugh. But other than that, it was great. Yeah, it's fun.
Sounds like an experience.
Larry is one of those guys that whatever it is, he's up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, he's up for everything, which is wonderful about him. Yeah.
I actually read a recent interview of yours where you talked about the impact that Star Trek has had on your life, watching the original series with your older brother, to the lasting friendships that you have gained from you being in Star Trek and from Armin being in Star Trek as well. Did you ever imagine watching the original series as a young girl that this show would have such an impact on the rest of your life?
I had no idea. I mean, I knew that it had changed my brother's life. That was clear when we were little kids. He was going to be a scientist. There was no question that he was going to be a scientist. But the fact that he went into aerospace is directly, I can point directly to Star Trek. So I knew it had changed his life. I had no idea it would change Armin's in my life the way it had. I thought I was going to go to New York and be a musical comedy star. And to tell you the truth, I don't sing that well and I don't dance that well. I'm perfectly mediocre at both things, but I am a good actor. And so, I had no idea. I really I had no idea. And how lucky am I that it came this way?
Yeah.
I'm just so lucky. So many of our dear friends. Marnie Moseman was over yesterday, John Delancey's wife, who's an extraordinary actress. And we were writing postcards to voters and watching the January 6th hearings while we were catching up with everything. She and John are in my life all the time. Terry texted the other day and said, I haven't seen you for a long time. We have to go for a walk. I mean, it's just the people, Jonathan Frakes, who Armin knows before he knows me, and Armin and I have been married for 41 years. He's part of our life all the time. His daughter Eliza came over for lunch with her dog Mamie to have a play date with my dogs last week. It's Star Trek is part of my life in such a great way. And I have people that I've met at conventions, fans who are really dear friends. It's kind of great. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's a beautiful answer.
There's the little girl inside of me who's still a little bit jealous that you're friends with Jonathan Frakes, but that's just because he was one of my first major on-screen crushes because he's so
Johnny's cute. There's no question. Johnny's cute. First time I met him, he and Jeannie were dating, and there was a bowling birthday. It was before he was on Star Trek. It was a bowling birthday party for a mutual friend who was a casting director, and the four of us were on the same bowling lane, and Armin and Jonathan were catching up, and Jeannie and I were becoming friends, and pretty great. Goes back a long ways. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I grew up watching Deep Space Nine and then reruns of all of Star Trek because my parents loved Star Trek, but Riker was just I can very much point back to my taste in men is
You have excellent taste. I have to tell you, you have excellent taste.
And it's so funny is people are really, I don't see that in your husband. And I'm like, oh, but when he grows a beard, there it is.
There you go.
You may have beat me to it. I may have been pulling up pictures of your husband.
Right?
Anyway,
I just never had a type. That's so interesting. Except, Armin's my type because after we met 43 years ago, so I guess he's my type now. But before that, I didn't have a type.
Fair enough.
But you and Armin, from what I've seen, what I've read, you guys are just best friends on top of, that seems like the root of your relationship is that you guys are friends and then your relationship blossoms from there. And that's amazing. My husband and I were friends before we started dating. And I feel like that's what we can always fall back on is even on the days where he's driving me crazy. It's I tell him, I'm like, so I need to complain to my best friend for a minute. He's like, okay, about what? I'm like, my husband is being a jerk. He's like, that's not fair. I am your husband and your best friend. I'm like, yeah. And now you have to deal with me complaining about the fact that my husband is a jerk. So
suck it up, champ.
Were you really pulling up pictures of my husband though, Tim? You're so weird.
A little bit. I was just, comparison shopping. It's all right.
So, Kitty, when we interviewed Armin and he was talking to us about there was a time he was struggling with something, and then you gave him some words of encouragement. If you want to be a knight, you have to wear the armor. And I love that. And that got me thinking about our dreams and aspirations. So if you could do anything in the world without failing, what would you do?
If I could do anything, I would make the world fairer.
That's a solid answer.
That's a solid answer. That isn't.
Considering that there's nothing in life that is fair, I think that's a very solid answer.
I also am pretty sure I just heard my 4-year-old yell, "Dad, that's not fair," from the other room. But,
Timing is everything.
right?
If I was going to be selfish, I'd really love to be able to play the piano beautifully. It would give me such joy to be able to, but that's the selfish answer. Yeah.
We'll accept both. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll take both.
And now a word from our sponsor. Since 1982, Vital Signs and Graphics has been helping professionals with all their image, logo, and design needs. Perhaps you're looking for signs and banners, truck and trailer lettering, business cards, brochures, or other image and marketing aids. Vital Signs and Graphics in-house design studio has you covered. From logos to apparel, start to finish, Vital Signs and Graphics has everything you need to look and feel professional. Call Rick at 231-652-3300. He'll get you noticed. Welcome back to the FSF Popcast.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So I'm always interested in people's backgrounds, learning about our guests, what kind of makes them tick, a little bit of an origin story, so to speak. So what was it in the origin story of Kitty Swink that made you want to look into the world of entertainment and pursue a career in the arts?
My mother read all the time. She read all the time. And she taught me to love to read. She taught me to love story and metaphor and how you could learn anything inside the pages of a book. I just expanded that into telling stories my way. I couldn't write. I wrote I was a good student. I wrote a good paper, but I'm not a creative writer. The way Armin can write a novel, that's not what I do. But I could tell a story a different way. And then in 5th grade, I said to Patty DeRocher, who I still know, and was one of my college roommates, I said, I'm going to be an actress. And she laughed at me. And that made me really cranky. And I went, oh, I'm not going to use the word you told me I couldn't use. So I decided to become an actress, and there you have it. I'm in. And then, I like being on camera is fine. It's terrific. It's wonderful. Thank you very much for my house. But there's something about being rehearsing on a stage and then stepping in front of an audience, and I say commutative property, the permeable bond between the audience and the actors.
Mm-hmm.
Play's not finished until you have an audience and you experience it together. There's something about that experience that is so, on the nights that it works, on the nights that it's magic, is so overwhelming to me that the first time I got a laugh, or I made somebody cry, or the audience made me laugh or cry because I was so overwhelmed by what was happening between us. I never could get over that. I just could never get over the magic of, the Greeks called it catharsis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. You're brought to catharsis, and I love that experience. And I can direct, okay, I'm not film, but I'm a pretty good theater director. I can't write. I could write, but I'd be okay. Maybe if I was lucky, I'd be okay. I can't paint. I don't play the piano well, but I can do this thing. I can make theater. And I think people who experience art, whether it's a painting or a book or a poem or a piece of music, whatever it is, they're more likely to be open to the world. They're more likely to be kind. They're more likely to be willing to learn. And if I can be any part of that process, then I feel like I haven't been a failure as a human being. Even if I get one person a year, it's one person I didn't have before. That's why I like teaching so much. It's the same thing. It's the same experience. I love that.
Oh, that's
And
a
it
great
makes
answer.
me better. I can't be angry with the world when I see a good piece of theater or read a brilliant book. I just can't, because there's beauty.
I like it. That's a very good answer. Very insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I need to go back to a live show.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's kind of how I feel after I wish I could play the guitar. I can't. I've tried a couple different times. I'm just not good at it. But there's something about watching music in a live setting.
Mhm.
And just this was it last week? Yeah, last week. I went to go see one of my favorite bands perform. It was the first chance I ever got to see them perform, and when I leave live music, it's kind of a, and I assume this is for people who go watch theater and enjoy the theater and musicals and things along those lines. I have a performance. I get a performance high from it, and when I leave, I'm very excited, for a little bit. And I felt really bad for my buddy who I was riding home with, because I wouldn't shut up about the concert, and that's all I could talk about for a little bit, was because I was so excited about it and I enjoyed it so very much, and I wanted to talk about every last little thing of it because I enjoyed watching the musicians do what they were doing. And how they were doing it. So, and that's kind of how I'm relating to your answer, is that, thinking about it from that aspect.
Are you going to tell us who the band is?
Sure. Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Toad, and I never had a chance to see them live. One of my favorite songs ever is by them. It's called Crazy Life. And it just... It's kind of one of those funny things that all these years I've listened to that band and that song in particular, which is also on the Empire Records soundtrack of one of my favorite movies. Wow. And all these years I've listened to that song, watched that movie. I have never once realized that it wasn't Glenn, the lead singer, singing the song. It was the guitarist. Wow. I didn't realize it till we were at the concert and Glenn backed away from the microphone, and here comes the lead guitarist, and he started singing, and I was like, well, I learned something today. All right. So
that's great.
But I feel like that is how you know that it was a good performance, when the audience leaves feeling like that too, because you know that the band is feeling the same way, or the cast of the play or the musical. I mean, I was in high school productions of stuff. I was in choir, but I love live theater. I grew up around live theater. And as an audience member, you can tell when cast members are having a good night, when they are enjoying their performance, and the energy is different. I love that. And I am going to start looking at tickets to go see something live soon, because I need to.
It's much fun.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
So Kitty, I have one more question tonight. And I went really, really serious with the pancreatic cancer thing. I've already made myself want to cry multiple times. So I am going to go polar opposite and go completely ridiculous for a minute.
Okay, good. I'm ready.
I found it funny that the website WikiData not only identifies you as a human, but also offers reference to prove it. And I'm sure that it's comforting on some levels that they've proved that you're a human. But if you weren't a human, what species would you want to be, and why?
I'd want to come back as one of my dogs. Are you kidding?
Oh, man.
I don't even want to come back as an alien. I want to come back as one of my dogs. Life is complete as one of my dogs. Somebody scrubbles your belly all the time. You get a little under the chin. You're getting treats all the time. You get taken for walks. That's what I want.
I love that.
She could be onto something.
I'd either want to be a dog or a house cat, because house cats get to sleep all the time and nobody thinks anything of it. And then they just randomly run full speed through the room screaming, and it's fine because they're a cat. I do it and people think there's a problem.
Either way, the pets are pretty well pampered.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Ridiculously, my name is Kitty and I'm allergic to cats. So I want to come back as a dog because I don't want to be allergic to myself.
That's
true.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's fair. My tuxedo cat, my sweet Ernie, was sleeping in the recliner in our living room yesterday and completely asleep. Paws twitching, whiskers twitching, ears twitching. He farted in his sleep. It scared him. He jumped out of that chair. He jumped out of that chair so fast and full speed, like zoomed around the living room, meowing. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're gonna be okay. He's all right. My other cat starts chasing him, and then the dog gets involved, and I'm like, guys, man. But I want to just be able to randomly stand up and start screaming and running full speed through my house and having people not look at me like I've completely lost it.
Well, then we do that. I have to say, as dogs, they're all of a sudden, whoa! Yeah.
And it's so funny. They get that zoom of energy and they zoom me around. And I don't know if your dogs do it. My dog will get to the point where her back end is running faster than her front end. And then we'll run into things and slide into things. And I'm like, really? I have a very tiny house. I'm going to put you outside where you can run full speed in the grass. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
I love the idea of coming back as a dog, though. Definitely a dog or a cat.
Cool.
I like that idea a lot.
One of the things we don't get to see a whole lot of as fans is a lot of the behind the scenes kind of stuff that actors get to experience. And a lot of times that's where the blooper reels and all that stuff come from. But there's a lot more than that. So is there an incident that has happened on set that still makes you laugh to this day?
There's a lot of them. I actually have something that's from college. It's a theater related story, but it's a similar thing. So I was doing a play called Scapino, and I'm playing Zerbinetta the Gypsy. And then there's the blonde girl with the big bosoms, which I obviously don't have, as the ingenue sort of girl. And at the end, there's a guy selling ice cream. It's the last scene of the play, this guy selling ice cream, and he would come over and he would put one scoop and hand it to me, and then he would look at her, and then he would look at her, and he would add a second scoop for her cone because, and one day, one show, he handed the ice cream to her and he had too much speed on his hand, and the top scoop toppled into the cleavage of her dress. He was a really smart young actor, and he reached over and he grabbed the other scoop and he put it on top of the ice cream cone. He handed the ice cream cone to her, and he spent the entire rest of the scene, including the curtain call, I'm on stage going, I don't usually break, but I was like, I was a mess. I was a mess. I'll never forget that guy.
Oh, no, I can see why.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what he looks like. I remember his character's name. I'll never forget that guy.
Oh my goodness.
And every time I think about the story, I start going,
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome. Yeah. University of Oregon, straight to you. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, awkward. I love it.
All right, Kitty, we're at a point in our show where we like to take our guests through a little bit of a quiz.
Okay.
It's a 4-question quiz. They're all
Okay.
multiple choice. Okay.
Okay.
If you get 3 of the 4 questions correct, we're going to send you this book right here called Custodians of the Cosmos.
Okay.
It's written about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet, litigiously. And he wasn't able to join, so he rejoined as a custodian to boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went.
I don't remember if Armin has a copy or not.
I don't remember either. So, but we want to make sure that you get that book. If you get the 3 questions correct, we'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay.
Now, they're all multiple choice.
Okay.
Okay. And like I said, so 3, you get the book. If you get 2 or less correct, Nick mentioned I believe he mentioned our Facebook group. Didn't you, Nick? Didn't you?
Not tonight.
No? Okay. Well, not tonight.
Not this time.
Well, not tonight. I must have missed that somehow. But we have a Facebook group of over 206,000 members, which is full of all different memes of this universe mixed with that universe and all this kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
So we call it our fun sequence. If you get 2 or less questions, we make a meme out of you and we put you into our Facebook group.
The stakes are high.
Okay. Okay. Good.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Nick, take us out.
In Roddenberry's original treatment, what was the name of the starship? Was it Enterprise, Yorktown, or Crusher?
Enterprise.
It was Yorktown.
Okay, fine. All right. I'm down 1. I feel Facebook in my future. Here we go. Ay.
Question number 2. Which alien race did President Ronald Reagan say reminded him of Congress? A, Romulans, B, Borg, or C, Klingons?
Klingons.
That is correct.
Okay, so
I
typically
barely made it through that one without laughing, man.
typically we don't do anything even close to politics on this show, but that question cracked me up and I had to put it in.
I think it's a good question. But there was only one answer: Klingons. Borg weren't even invented when he was president, so that's like that. So yeah.
What is Lieutenant? Oh man,
Or,
I know it. What was it?
Uhura?
Uhura.
I knew that. Uhura's first name. Is it Katora, Nyota, or Becky?
The first one.
Katora
Uh-huh.
or Nyota?
No, Katora.
It was Nyota.
Okay, there you go. I'm on Facebook. Here we go.
Oh,
All right.
man.
Just ask me the fourth question so I know how bad it is. Okay.
Question number 4.
Yes.
Who is the chief medical officer of Deep Space Nine? Is it Dr. Dax, Dr. Sisko, or Dr. Bashir?
Dr. Bashir.
That is correct.
All right.
He was on
very
my
good.
TV last
He's a
night.
friend of mine, and I was on that show. So, that one I should have been able to get.
I fell asleep watching Deep Space Nine last night.
Okay, I'm not going to go there with you.
It's a comfort show. I've watched it through so many times, and it was so funny as I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, and I looked and I'm like, oh, I should go back to sleep. Oh, look, it's Q. And I was awake for another hour and a half. So
Well, all right, Katie. So
Call John next week when I see him.
Oh
we're
my
gonna
gosh,
make
I've seen it.
we're gonna take one of your pictures. We're gonna make a meme out of you. We're gonna put it in our Facebook group. But I guarantee you, it'll be a nice meme. You won't be sad about it.
Uh-huh. I don't believe you.
Probably fair. But all the same, if you're interested, we'd still like to send you the book anyway.
Thank
Okay.
you.
As
Yeah.
a lovely parting gift, and thank you for putting up with our shenanigans.
Oh, it was fun. I had a really good time. Thank you, you guys. Thank
I
you.
am still struggling a little bit with we talk about the Star Trek, the people that I saw on my TV growing up, and you're like, oh yeah, they're my friends. I saw them last week. I'll see him next week. Like, you live such a cool life. So cool.
Everybody has a cool life if they're lucky enough. Yeah.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
We interviewed Will Wheaton, and he was talking about his friend Patrick, and I'm like, you're talking about Patrick Stewart, and he was just so nonchalant about, oh yes, my friend Patrick and I did. I'm like, dude, it's Patrick Stewart. He's like, well, I will call him Sir Patrick Stewart when I need to. I'm like, your friend is a knight. It's just mind blowing to me.
Well, Kitty, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more? And also remind us where we can go to find out more about PanCam.
If you go to www.pancan.org, PANCAN, capital P, small a-n, capital CAN.org, you can find out a lot. Or find me on Twitter and I will send you in the right direction. At Kitty Swink.
Awesome.
Awesome. We're definitely going to link your Twitter and the PanCan website for our viewers and our listeners to hopefully go and
Thank you.
see all the amazing stuff you do.
Yeah.
All right.
We also want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show continue to grow and get more amazing guests like Kitty Swink here today to have these wonderful conversations with and give you a few moments of laughter as well. So please subscribe. It helps us more than we'll ever really be able to tell you. And please go check out PanCan as well and everything that's going on over there. It sounds like a wonderful organization. I'll be checking it out more here in just a couple of moments.
Thanks.
But if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the Earth Alliance Senator from Babylon 5. You see, she's used to dealing with paperwork and redundancy for, well, redundancy's sake. So bring your 3 copies of your complaint because that's not what's going to slow her down. What's going to slow her down is the rest of the bureaucrats in President Clark's inner circle. Once she gets past those guys, you can be sure that the offending parties will pay for their insolence, but most likely their poor podcasting skills.
Thanks again, Kitty, for being on the show today.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Kitty.
Thank you. I had a really good time. Had a good time.
All right, guys, that's going to conclude us there for the FSF Podcast.
All right, I'm going to go put the dinner in the marinade. Bye.
Ciao.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Podcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPodcast. Or go to www.fsfpodcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.